Okay, so we are doing book review. It's our monthly book review. The book is The Art of Impossible, a peak performance primer by Steven Kotler. Did I get that right? Okay, so I'm going to read the description of the book from Amazon, and then we can get into our takeaways, what we liked, what we didn't like, and our overall barbell rating on a scale of 1 to 5 fractional plates allowed. All right, so best-selling author and peak performance expert Steven Kotler decodes the secrets of those elite performers, athletes, artists, scientists, CEOs, and more who have changed our definition of the possible, teaching us how we too can stretch far beyond our capabilities, making impossible dreams much more attainable for all of us. What does it take to accomplish the impossible? What does it take to shatter our limitations, exceed our expectations, and turn our biggest dreams into our most recent achievements? We are capable of so much more than we know. That's the message at the core of The Art of Impossible. Building upon cutting edge neuroscience and over 20 years of research, best-selling author, peak performance expert, and executive director of the Flow Research Collective, Steven Kotler lays out a blueprint for extreme performance improvement. If you want to aim high, here's the playbook to make it happen. Inspirational and aspirational, pragmatic and accessible, The Art of Impossible is a life-changing experience disguised as a how-to manual for peak performance that anyone can use to shoot for the stars. Spacesuit not included. So the reason I wanted to read that entire description just to see if we feel like the book lived up to such a great um uh description there, if we feel that way. Let's get into it. So likes, didn't likes, pros, cons. Gentlemen, what do you think about this book, The Art of Impossible?
So I will say, starting off with dislikes was, so a lot of times when you get these books, especially self-help or not even self-help, but a lot of the nonfiction is they come at you with like their powerful statements, their success stories, their shiny objects, their everything of like, this is the success, this is great, this is this thing. And you're like jazzed up from the beginning, good to go, ready to run through a wall. And then maybe, 30, 40, 50% through, you might start to slow down and it might start to wane on you. This one was kind of the opposite. The first quarter of this book, I was kind of like meh on. Like I wasn't really too into. I didn't really get much from it. But as it went on further and further, I was like, yes, yes, yes. This is so. There's a lot of great stuff as it goes on, and it just gets better and better. A couple of things that I really like. Probably my favorite thing, the one that stuck in my head the most, was the 5 books of stupid. I
Yeah.
really liked that, and it's kind of what we say sometimes about when it comes to nutrition. If you want to learn about nutrition, you can't really just read one book about it and be good. You got to read several and get several different angles on it. And the 5 books of stupid really laid out a great way to, if you want to learn about something new, get into something new, and how he broke it down into, okay, the first 2 books should just be completely popular. Read it so that you're still excited about the subject. Don't get too niche. Don't get too bogged down with something too crazy so that you don't get confused or back out. You want to still be excited for those first 2 books. And then the third book, you'll start to narrow your focus. And then the fourth book should start to get even harder. And then the fifth book should challenge you the most about that subject. And I think that is really, really awesome. No matter what you want to get into or learn about, that was one of my favorite parts about it. And it's a really practical way to go about learning to learn something new instead of just like, well, yeah, I guess this book I saw, I'll just kind of pick this up. I mean, it's still fine to just pick up books, but that was really, I really, really liked. Another thing that I haven't checked out yet, but I really want to, was the Tim Ferriss experiment.
Yeah.
I never even heard of that until recently.
Yeah.
I don't really know too much about Tim Ferriss.
I think I only watched one episode when it first came out a long time ago because it was like only on Apple, I think, or something like that. And so at that time when they did it, and so I think I watched like one and then didn't watch anymore. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. The whole idea behind that was kind of cool. The fact that, like, I guess the Tim Ferriss experiment was he takes like 72 hours or whatever to learn something new and learns from an expert, and how he breaks it down to learn something sufficiently enough. He's not like an expert at it, but it just proves the whole point of that in the book was that no matter how old you are, no matter where you are in life, you can still learn and pick up on new things and adapt and grow. And I think a lot of times people get stuck into, you get into your life and in your 30s or wherever you are, you're just like, okay, well, this is life now. I have my job, I have my life now. I'm just kind of doing what I want from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday kind of thing. So if you are pursuing something, this shows that it's never too late, and you can still go about it and learn all these whatever you want, especially if you can focus the right way and go about it in a relatable way. And um, enhancing flow, I liked. There was a lot about enhancing flow. That was kind of the biggest part about it. But this is something that we went over in like college with advertising and marketing. Changing surroundings is a big one that I have done and like to do a lot. I just noticed that, if you leave your office, you leave, go somewhere else. If you need to get creative, get some things flowing, then changing surroundings can be great. And then doing something with like a low brain power, very like remedial task, can also help shake thoughts loose and get you to enhance your flow. But Kyle, what you got?
I really enjoyed it. I think it's pretty clear. My favorite book that we've covered on the podcast is The Art of Resilience. And Bria, we covered that a long time ago.
You like art books?
I do. I'm going to mention another one here in just a second.
Gotta have art.
But this one was right up there for me. I really enjoyed it too. I think the narrative part of Art of Resilience kind of puts it above this one, because it's more of a story format. But
why is it a comparison?
Well,
just so you know, I really like this one, but it's
which
not...
art book I like best?
Yeah, I know, right? That's just anyway. I guess I'm just trying to give some context of how much I like it. That's what I was trying to do.
Sorry,
I was trying to give context of how much I like it, because everybody knows I really liked the other one. But it's talking about capital I versus lowercase I impossible, and how peak performers pursue those two different things. So capital I impossible is something that nobody has ever done. So basically like pushing the limits of all humanity, of all human performance and achievement. And little I impossible is something that seems impossible for you. So it's something that other people have done, other people have accomplished, but it's something that in your head, when you think about possibly doing that thing, it doesn't seem attainable for you. And so just kind of using his format to do both, really, to push your personal limits, but also if you're so inclined, to push the limits of all humanity with those capital I impossible. But it kind of reminded me of, here's the other art book, The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. And that book is all about finding the thing. Basically, it's about finding the thing that you are put on earth to do and pursuing that thing with reckless abandon. And so that's kind of a lot of what this guy is talking about as well, of finding what you're passionate about, how to narrow down on that thing that you're passionate about, how to pursue it, a lot of really practical applications of how to do that. And so that's kind of what it reminded me of as well. I really liked, one of the very first things that he shared was his 25 interest exercise, of where you write down 25 things that you're really interested in. And he also drew that the importance of writing it down physically, like pen to paper, instead of like putting it in digital format, because there's something really powerful in the connection between physically writing something versus typing something. But 25 things that you're curious about, be very, very specific as possible about those things, but things that you would be like, if you could take a weekend and really dive into some of the stuff surrounding whatever that one thing is, that you would do that you would take some time out of your weekend to read a book or two, or listen to a lecture, or maybe even talk to somebody who's an expert on that thing, and but be very specific about it. And once you have your list of those 25 things, find the connections amongst those things. So see if there are like 3 or 4 things on your list. There probably will be about 3 or 4 things on your list that are connected, and that's going to help you kind of start to narrow in on the thing that you need to be pursuing, and the thing that you're passionate about, and that will help trigger this flow and this creativity and all those things that he talks about for the rest of the book. So that's kind of the first step, is that 25 things list. And so I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool. The 5 books of stupid was really cool as well. Of course, we read all kinds of books all the time. So somebody suggesting, hey, you should go read more books, I like that. I think that's a good suggestion. But also, one last thing, basically, you talked about learn something interesting about what you're interested in every day. So whatever it is that you've narrowed in on that you're interested in, that you want to focus on, learn something interesting about that thing, and it helps continue this flow and this creativity cycle where you just continue to learn more and push forward and start to achieve those things that you're wanting to achieve. Trampus, what you got?
Yeah, like these guys said, great book. Tons of just like actionable activities, like the 5 books of stupid, um, and just these different processes that you can go through to get to the same place. He talked about the intersections of things a lot, and I kept comparing this to like me making merch, because what is fitness and drawing and marketing and what do all those have to do with each other? And it's finding that spot where, you know, I can sit down and take a fitness topic, put it on an iPad, then figure out how I'm going to let people know that it exists. And you've got to learn all the different places and find that intersection that's perfect. And that's the whole book. I was just comparing it to what I'm trying to do with these businesses and with the merch here. And I just thought it was great. Wanted to also talk about, he talks about the importance of sleep, diet, hydration, and exercise towards the end. Um, Oddly enough, that's part of Jerred's elements that he's put together. You know, all that stuff is important to reach the maximum level of benefit. Getting into flow, I think, Joe, you sort of mentioned doing something mindless. It's not completely mindless when I'm doing it, but you know, I can listen to an audiobook or something like that while I'm drawing on my iPad, you know, and I kind of know what I'm doing with the drawing, and I'm able to soak up the information. And again, it's just finding that intersection of the two activities and trying to put them together. He talked about how these companies will set up, and I can't remember which example he gave, but these companies will set up their offices so that people like have to run into each other and communicate and talk, and basically how that just spurs on, you know, imagination and create. Yeah, was it Apple? Yeah. I knew it was a tech company. I couldn't remember which one, but like Apple set up
one
their
of the
offices.
medium ones.
Yeah, one of the little smaller ones, but they've set up their offices in a way so that people have to go certain paths, and you may like run into somebody that you know, and then just basically it's bringing in what he kept calling confusion or aggravation, I guess is the better word for it. But like, it's when you start getting aggravated, that's when you start to creatively try to get your way out of it, and it basically it just opens up the pathway. But just so many good actionable tips from it. I mean, it's almost too much to try to explain, because he basically just he defines this perfect storm for people that do the impossible. And it sounds kind of corny, but like that's what he does throughout the whole book. So great book. A lot of tidbits. You could take one part of it and you could just implement that if you're low at one point, or you can try to take the whole thing and do it across the whole spectrum. So and then the last thing I'll say is, it's not impossible, it's I'm possible. And that's for a very specific group of people that are going to laugh at me later. But
All right.
Go ahead.
So Steven Kotler, a phenomenal author, just in general. I don't know if you haven't read any of his other books, I highly recommend them. He's written multiple. Stealing Fire was really good. Really, like, probably one of my top 10s. Like, that was a great book. I think it's The Rise of Superman, another great book. This book, great book. He's an actual author. You know, like he didn't come with some idea. Like he talks about his process kind of in the 5 books of stupid, like how he does research, how he comes up with good questions. And you can just tell how he put the book together is very good. He's a smart dude. He's a good writer. And there's a lot of phenomenal takeaways. I would say the entire book really is about flow and how to get into this, better, more, this peak performance mindset. And just like, that's why I do everything that I do. I like the elements, all these things, like the reason I'm chasing different things with my diet has everything to do with my mental performance and very little to do with my immune system or recovery. Like all those things are great. All those are like the cherry on top for me. But the reason I've pursued all these different things is because I want to perform at the highest mental level possible.
Mm.
And I feel like he's put a lot of great ideas in this book to be able to do that. And one thing that kept coming up throughout the book was just the importance of actually having goals. He called them, first, there's a massively transformative purpose. He called them MTPs, which is essentially like a goal for your life, mission statement for your life. They're hard goals, which are a major step towards your MTP. And then clear goals, which are daily sub steps. So the having goals or intentions are very important. You can't get around it. Like you have to, it doesn't mean you have to say, I want a 500-pound back squat. It just means that there's this different way that these elite performers are pursuing things than people who are not at all. And so you have to be pursuing something. And so I think goals are really important. And like I said, that kept coming up throughout the book. And so I think that people should go through some of the exercises. Kyle mentioned that there's like things that you can actually do, but he actually walks you through like coming up with your MTP. I did it, and that's fairly easy for me because I kind of already have these things in my brain, but I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I wrote down my hard goal. I went through my clear goals. Like I do a lot of these things already. And he has just given it such a clear framework, so I think diving into these things to get into a better flow state is something that everyone should be interested in. And the easy takeaways were like Trampus said, follow the elements, sleep, train, but then really focus on this undistracted work. I've actually been a lot worse at this lately, mainly due to my work environment, not being in my new office, kids at home, COVID, 2020 to 2021. I won't say I can be completely distracted work the whole time, but the least focused I've probably been able to be at work. But pre this pandemic and everything that's happened, that is like my life is like, you can't talk to me. You can't text message me. You can't Slack me. You can't email me. I will be working from this time to this time. You'll get in touch with me when I'm ready to like allow that. I haven't been like that lately. And so this is really like reminded me of how important that is. Like that's how you write a freaking book. Like that's like, that's what you need. A lot of people want to write a book. I've written 2. I'll write more, and it's gonna be this level of dedication that you have to have. Like you can't be distracted. You can't be answering emails and all these messages when you have something. And what I loved about it, it's not like he didn't say you need 8 hours of this. He said 90 to 120 minutes. So we're really just talking about like I couldn't go my whole day without talking to Joe or Kyle or Ashley or Tramps. Like they, we have to communicate about things. But can I dedicate 1 to 2 hours the first block of my morning to like execute something that I really need to do? And then I can communicate. I can be more, social interaction, all that stuff. Yeah, sure. But you need that undistracted work. And so I think that was a big thing that he put in the book. And another book on that one is Deep Work. Do we cover deep work on this? I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but deep work is really good if you're just looking
I don't think so.
on some practical takeaways about how to get into more of that state of mind or that workflow. But one of my favorite things that he put in there was the low energy grit exercise. And this is a very small thing. But he called it a low energy grit exercise. I call it a NFI. I put it in the Killing Comfort Planner, which is over my shoulder. If you're watching the YouTube video, it's called a no fail item is what I call it. I don't know what shoulder to point to. Oh, damn it. There he is. Yeah.
Those are the both.
Yeah. And so anyway, we have very similar mindset here is like, what's this one thing that you have that no matter what happens today, it's going to get done. And he was talking specifically about fitness. And I think that it's awesome. And so I think everyone, I took a coaching call while Kyle was out of town, and I challenged them to do it as too, to set a low energy exercise. And so I think that you should do it. That means if you can't get your training session in today, there has to be like a bare minimum that you do. He mentioned some runners, their minimum is like 20 minutes. His minimum was 200 push-ups, something like that. And so I picked a low energy grit exercise for me that is one part of Murph. So one element of Murph, obviously not Murph. So it's either a 1 mile run or 100 pull-ups or 200 push-ups or 300 squats. So there's an or in all of those. That's what I selected as my low energy grit exercise. So if I have a travel day, I'm at the hotel, there's no way a workout's happening. All right, well, your options really at this point are probably going to be 200 push-ups and 300 squats right now. And I just love that level because it doesn't take a lot of energy and it is a complete exercise in grit. That's all it is. Probably not improving your fitness that much. It's 100% just a test of who you are. Can you actually do that every time you come up to the, I kind of can't make it. I can't do it today. I'm going to still do this minimum. I think that'll really build a lot of character. So anyway, if you're interested in flow, I don't have a lot of negative things to say about the book. I thought the book was awesome. I think he probably could have cut to the chase a few times in the book, but that's probably just because I was so fully bought into the idea from the start that the Cliff Notes would have been perfect for me. But I get if you're kind of on the fence or new to this stuff, then the book is probably really well written for people trying to learn more. So let's get to our barbell rating. Kyle.
I'm going to give it 4.5 barbells.
4 and a fractional plate?
4 and a fractional plate.
All right. Trampus.
Yeah, I'm right there with Kyle. 4.5.
And Joe.
4.5 as well.
All right. And I'll go 5.
There we go.
Nice.
5
Bringing the
barbells.
average up.
Yeah. Everyone, it's whatever. Okay. What?
What?
Has anyone given a 5 yet?
No.
Everyone thinks their 5s are so damn important. This is just
Yeah.
something I've noticed about reviews in general. People are like, nah, I'm not giving you the full 5.
I think that it may have something to do with none of us have written a book, and you actually know what it takes to do that. And so you're giving this a 5 because, wow, he wrote this book and it's great. Where it's us, it's just kind of like it's just a good book.
Well,
it took me a while to get into it. Like
Joe's 4.5, I got a reason. He gave me a reason. It was like, you know what? Yeah, here was the thing that I didn't like that knocked it down a half. Trampus and Kyle, I didn't get any of that. This book was amazing. I loved it. I'm not trying to talk you into a 5, but I didn't hear the lack of a 0.5% mark down. So what is give the listeners that at a minimum, because we need to know, okay, you guys loved it, but there was something that like kind of held you back from giving it your full rating.
I'll give you a reason.
Go ahead.
There was a lot of technical jargon in it, especially when he started talking about the brain, started talking about how the brain works. He started talking about a lot of internal processes with the brain, stuff like that. And not that I'm specifically like intimidated by that or don't like that or those kinds of things, but I'm also kind of thinking of listeners, and some listeners don't read as many books as we do on a regular basis. And so, and he talked about in the 5 books of stupid of like being familiar with terminology. That's kind of one of the main reasons that you read 5 books on that topic, is so you can be familiar with terminology. It's terminology that I'm familiar with, but there was enough of it in there to kind of bog it down maybe for people who don't read on the level that we do. So I knocked it down a 0.5 barbell.
Fair enough.
There you go.
It was a 10-hour audiobook. And I think kind of like you said, it could have been.
That was it.
I was like, all right.
10 hours, man. That's what
like you said, I think it could have been, he could have cut to the chase, but it may be like you said, where we're all sort of bought into this idea anyways. Like what was funny for me is I was reading about flow, and you said that your work environment's not that great. I'm in my dining room right now.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is only working 3 days a week. So I was listening to him while making a t-shirt, talk about flow. And every 10 minutes she would come over here and talk to me about something. And it just trying to get into a distract. And she won't ever listen to this. I don't think so. If she ever does,
You're in trouble.
Babe, I love you. But when I'm trying
we didn't tell them the rules of podcasting.
Distraction free, it's fine. Distraction free workplace is it's hard to set yourself up for that.
It has to be communicated, to be honest.
Right.
It can't like.
Yeah.
I'm very clear about that. Emily's great. My kids know about it. You just certain times don't talk to me because you're not gonna like me if you break my concentration. I try to not be mean, but you can tell just from the look on my face, I am now annoyed. And I try really hard to not be that way. Probably one of my biggest flaws. But when I'm like very engrossed in something and you break that level of concentration, I'm like immediately frustrated. And it takes every bit of my willpower to try and pretend like I'm not. but the people who know me best are just like, oh, all right, sorry, whatever. Like, I'll get out of here. So yeah,
It's one word answers and no eye contact.
yeah. Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.